morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to be taking a little bit of a look at Dragapult and its winning ways. Yeah, that new Dragapult card that I got pretty excited about. Turns out it's pretty gosh darn good. Need to give a huge shout out before we get going to the lovely Code 64X. I'd seen winning Dragapult lists. I knew I'd seen them. I could not find them. I sent him a message. Replied right back with 4 winning deck lists. I'll show you them all in the video. Don't worry. There are lots of cool people in the community that deserve a lot of our love. Code 64X, definitely one of them. And while we're here, I've said it before and I'll say it many times, hopefully. Anyone that's ever helped me with anything on this channel, you guys are awesome. So Dragapult then, what does it actually do? Well, it's got that really awesome ability whereby if you want to attack it, you flip a coin, or the Dragapult player flips a coin. And if that Dragapult player flips a heads, great news. Yeah, nothing's actually done. It's got immunity on a coin flip. And there's no real good way to turn off non-V, non-GX abilities at the moment, which means that if you're the Dragapult player, there's only a 50% chance your opponent can attack you. And even when they do attack you, you've got 150 HP. Yeah, sure, your big tag teams and all will probably be one-hit KOing, but there's plenty of Pokemon out there that won't be. And that's kind of phenomenal. And it really is all built around Dragapult. Now, there is an attack here. The attack is, like I would refer to it as aggressively fine. 2 Psychic Energy, 120 damage, put 3 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way you like. It's not a good attack, but it's fine. It would be a fairly mediocre attack without the ability, but with the ability, it becomes a whole lot better. Because when you're only being attacked once every 2 turns on average, the attack becomes basically twice as good. And if you think 2 energy, 240, dropping 6 damage counters, which I know isn't exactly what it is, but just bear with me here, then yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. So it's all built around Dragapult. It is very much a Dragapult deck. 150 HP, free retreat, great ability, decent attack, and you go from there. Now, I have got 4 deck lists to show you, and there are differences and similarities between all of them. But one thing that we do see in all of them, Malamar. And I wish I could tell you they weren't all Malamar decks, but the fact of the matter is, if you're playing a Psychic Pokemon and you need to accelerate energy, Malamar's the way to go. Once per turn per Malamar, you can attach a Psychic Energy from your discard to one of your bench Pokemon. The fact of the matter is, Dragapult might be a cheap attack, but it's not a free attack. You still need to have that second energy, and this gets you that second energy. Means that you can make sure that you've got both energy on there, so if you get a Dragapult up this turn, you can have the energy and be ready to go this turn. Now outside of that, what we've got is just a whole heap of Psychic friends. And Jirachi. All 4 deck lists I'm going to show you in this video all feature Jirachi. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck if it's in the active, find a trainer card, put it in your hand, Jirachi goes to sleep, and then you use a skateboard to give yourself free retreat even though you're asleep. It is a phenomenal card that sees play in a phenomenal amount of decks, and at this stage you shouldn't be surprised to see it popping up. But what other Pokemon do we see here? Well, Giratina's a pretty good one that we tend to see pop up in most of the decks. In one of the decks, it's far more streamlined, but they've all got a few little Pokemon hanging around here and there. Giratina just lets you put it from, if it's in the discard, you can put it from the discard onto your bench while popping 2 damage counters, 1 on each of 2 bench Pokemon. Bearing in mind here that you are dropping damage counters using Dragapult, that actually works out pretty well. And it also means we're actually getting into Esper territory here. Yeah, we're actually using Esper. You see, the Esper from Unbroken Bonds for 1 Psychic 2 Colorless Energy does 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon for each damage counter on that bench Pokemon. So you're dropping damage counters with Giratina, and you're dropping damage counters with, well, damage with Giratina, same deal, with Dragapult. And then Esper can come in and clean up. And Esper's not actually that expensive because you've got Malamar rolling. Now, we do also want to see the Psychic Blacephalon in here as well. The Psychic Blacephalon is awesome. You get to drop 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like, which is not particularly great. But if your opponent has exactly 3 prize cards remaining, and bearing in mind we're not playing any EXs or GXs in these lists, so your opponent is going to have 3 prize cards remaining, yeah, then you drop 12. And dropping 12 damage counters in one go is huge. Plus, Esper. We do also see Mew for a little bit of bench protection in here as fairly standard. And we do see most of the list here playing Fione as well. Fione's that awesome one that makes your opponent switch their active and then goes to the bottom of your deck so you can't deck out. Fione's pretty much a one-of in every deck at the moment. It's not entirely, but it does see a rather phenomenal amount of play. It's one you need to keep an eye on. Now, we do see a couple of the lists bringing out Nihilego here for a bit more Ultra Beast themed fun. And again, we're just looking at good Psychic Pokemon. I mean, the Nihilego from Lost Thunder here for a single Psychic Energy. Okay, you can do Confusion and Poison, but let's skip past that. If your opponent has exactly 2 prize cards remaining, choose any attack from any of your opponent's Pokemon, even if it's a GX attack, and use it. And again, we're going full single prize Pokemon, so you're gonna have your opponent down to 2 prizes remaining here. So it's going to work. And that's going to be kind of fantastic. We do see a little bit of love for the Mimikyu from Cosmic Eclipse. That's the one that turns off, well, actually 2 Mimikyu in Cosmic Eclipse, but I'm talking the one that turns off abilities of any EX or GX with damage counters on, bearing in mind all the different ways you've got to drop damage counters here. And we do see a bit of Mimikyu as well, but the Impersonate Mimikyu. The one whereby if an attack was used by your opponent's Pokemon last turn, you can just copy that attack and use it. Though obviously that list does have to play a couple of Fairy Energy, because without Fairy Energy you'd never actually get to use the attack, and that would be a little bit sad. And we do see one of the lists here actually playing Garchomp and Giratina. Now you do have to play a Fighting Energy in here for fairly obvious reasons, but for 1 energy you can do 40 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. For a Psychic, a Fighting and a Colourless you can do 240 if they've got any damage counters on. So this is a slightly weirder list that does play Fairy, only 1, and Fighting, but again, only 1. So the point is, we've got a bunch of options. Now, we're not going to dig into every single item card in every single list, but there are a bunch you should be aware of. Clearly, Mysterious Treasure is amazing because you're playing a Psychic deck and it searches your Psychic Pokemon. Clearly, Quick Ball is amazing so that you can then get your basics with either Quick Ball or Mysterious Treasure. You don't need to worry too much about playing anything to grab your evolutions because you've got Mysterious Treasure to do so it's fine. While we're talking about Psychic tricks and dropping damage counters, which we've talked about a bit, might I remind you about Spell Tag? If attached to a Psychic Pokemon when it's KO'd, you get to put 4 damage counters on your opponent's Pokemon in any way that you like. What that means is that your opponent can only attack every other turn, and when they finally get a KO, they've got to take a bunch of damage. That's hilarious. Obviously, Rare Candy becomes extremely important given that you're a Stage 2 deck. And like in pretty much every Malamar build, our stadium of choice here is Viridian Forest. Especially good in that build that's playing 1 Fighting, 1 Fairy Energy. But you get to put energy in the discard ready to use with Malamar to accelerate. And you get to search your energy out. It's pretty important. We see Air Balloon seeing a bit of play here to give retreat to your Pokemon that aren't Jirachi. Obviously, with Jirachi, you do want to focus in on a skateboard, which you definitely have to play here. We do see Ordinary Rod, just because you have to recover your Pokemon and energy. Energy, I suppose, less so because of Malamar, but you definitely need to recover your Pokemon, so Ordinary Rod here becomes a great option for that. And Rosa. This is a kind of deck where Rosa is awesome, because Rosa, if you had a Pokemon KO the previous turn, will let you search for a Pokemon and an item card, a trainer card of any description to be fair, and an energy. So what you do here is you just grab a rare candy and a Dragapult and an energy, and as long as you've got one energy on your basic, that gets your Dragapult up and rolling and ready to go. If you're playing a single prize deck, especially a stage 2, Rosa becomes kind of a bit like cheating, and I mean that with nothing but love. And then our supporters of choice tend to be Cynthia and Marnie. Cynthia is just the best shuffle draw that we've got. Lets you shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 6 cards. Marnie shuffles your hand and puts it on the bottom of your deck, do not put it in. And then you get 5 cards, your opponent gets 4. Not quite as good shuffle draw as Cynthia, but it's also a little bit of disruption as well. And we do see a little bit of Erica's hospitality here. If you've got 4 or fewer cards in hand, you draw 1 card for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play. But bearing in mind you're playing a stage 2 deck with Malamar and all of that, you're going to be playing a lot of these cards when you get them. It's a kind of deck where Erica's going to work more often than not. Here is the first deck. You can see you've got the Fione there, you've got the Esper, you've got the Giratina, though no Lioligo, and it's fairly straightforward and consistent. Looking at the second deck here, again, there's not too much different. We do play the Blacephalon and the Nihilego here, though we're not playing an Esper. There is a Fione hidden away behind the Jirachi. The third list here is the weirder of them. You're playing the Fairy Mimikyu with 1 Fairy Energy and Garchomp and Giratina with 1 Fighting Energy, as well as the Blacephalon and the Mimikyu that turns off abilities. And here is the fourth list here. This one does play Nihilego, does play Giratina, does play Blacephalon, does play Esper. And actually, I didn't mention it earlier, there is one of those Oricorio GX that lets you draw 3 cards if one of your Pokemon was KO'd during your opponent's previous turn. Given that you're playing a single prize deck other than the Oricorio, that means that you're going to have more KOs before your opponent wins. In the same way that it makes Rosa better, it makes Oricorio better. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's Dragapult, and I adore Dragapult. I think Dragapult is one of the coolest Pokemon to come out of VMAX Rising, and it's one that I really do believe could have legs and be a great deck. I've just shown you 4 winning decks that we've seen already. It's definitely seeing play. It's definitely seeing success. Is it going to be the very best deck in the format? That is a question I cannot answer, but it is a question, the answer of which I am very excited to learn. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know what you think about all of this Dragapult nonsense, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have any Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome regardless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.